Hello, today I'm at the disc golf course at Heritage Park in Colerain Township outside of Cincinnati, Ohio. It is an 18-hole disc golf course, and it is a unique golf course in that it has these bamboo pods, about 4 of these really big bamboo pods or bamboo forests that are spread out throughout the course. That gives it a unique feel, something you wouldn't think you would find in Southwest Ohio. Now the course is relatively flat. There's some elevation change on a couple of the baskets, but for the most part, it's relatively flat. The first 9 holes are pretty much open besides those bamboo forests, and we'll show you those forests later on. The last 9 holes, you do go through the woods a little bit. Now the park is close to the Whitewater River, and it is flat here, so it does get windy, and today it is windy. Even though it is sunny and beautiful, there is a wind coming through. You might be able to hear it on the mic. And the river is right over here to my left, and the wind's just coming right off that river, right down this flat that you can see behind me. Also, the park has this walking trail, this paved walking trail that kind of goes throughout the course. So you got to be careful as you're playing disc golf that you're watching for people that are walking or biking or pushing their strollers through. Now there are out of bounds here at the course. The bamboo pods are out of bounds, plus there are areas of high grass, which are actually cut down for now, and those are out of bounds. And there are some places in the woods that are out of bounds. Now it's up to you if you actually want to play those or not. Now the grass is cut down for now, so it's flat, so it's actually really playable. Now if you come here in the summer, that grass gets really, really high. Before we go any further, I'd like to ask you to like and subscribe, and make sure you ring that bell so you can get notified of any other videos. So we're going to get started here on hole 1. It is a par 4, 226 feet. Now if you're playing on the U-Disc app, there is a pro mode, which everything's a par 3. So the pars here are pretty generous. So let's get started. We are at hole 2, and it is a par 5, 317 feet. You can see the bamboo pod right here on my left over my shoulder, and then you can see the fairway on my right. And you can see the fairway goes straight, and then it takes a slight bend at about 1 o'clock towards the basket. So this is a great place to use your forehand if you got one, or to use your understable disc. By the way, all of the tee pads at this course are concrete, and they're really good tee pads, so that's one thing that's nice. And there's good signage everywhere, and the baskets are in good shape. Hole 3, par 4, 227 feet. Pretty much a straight shot to the basket. Normally, you see this looks like straw. That grass is high. This is early in the season, so it's nice and low. That is technically out of bounds. All right, so we are on hole 4, par 5, and it is 326 feet. Again, you got more bamboo over my left shoulder, fairway on my right. Again, if you got a forehand, this is the place to use it because the hole wraps right around that bamboo, and the basket is on the other end around the edge there, on the edge of that bamboo. This is hole 5, par 4, 265 feet. Pretty much straight shot down to the basket. Wide fairway. The out of bounds is the high grass way out there on my right, and then over here on my far right is out of bounds. Fairway over there on the left is not out of bounds. Usually gets a good wind across here too, so you got to be careful. Since it is windy here, it's good to keep it low, especially out here in the wide open You saw some of mine so far. I had some of them high, and they kind of just fade out. So when it's windy here, keep them nice and low, and just let it sail. We are on hole 6. It is a par 4, 375 feet. And you can see behind me there is a grass area that is mowed down. And during the summer, it is really high, and even in the fall, it is really high. You can see that this tee pad kind of faces down this fairway. And I talked to one of the guys that helped design the course. He said that that grass area was supposed to be another bamboo pod to make people go down this fairway like the tee pad is facing. But since they put in grass, everybody likes to go over the grass. But the wind actually comes across from right to left, and you can probably hear the wind now. And so it makes it a little bit of a challenge sometimes not to push you into the grass. And that grass is OB, by the way. As you see, I got the bamboo forest over my left shoulder, and it is not far from the tee pad, and it is an eye magnet. People end up looking at that and driving right into that, and it is thick. And you don't realize how high that bamboo is until you get in there, and your disc can be way up high and you never see it. And then as you get going further on into the next few holes, you start getting into some woods. And so people start losing disc from this point. This is hole 7, par 5, 300 feet. So from the tee pad, the hole, the basket is almost a straight shot, but you're going to have to wrap around the bamboo here. Got to be careful of the pedestrian way. We have someone walking right now. But there is grass just past the tee pad. It's mowed down, but it is out of bounds technically as well. Couldn't have done that shot any better. Let's see what it looks like in the jungle. Let's go look. Pretty thick in here. It's the middle of the day today and sunny, so you can see pretty decently. But when it's twilight, you can't see hardly anything. I've lost at least one disc in here. Couldn't find it at all. Pretty cool though, this bamboo grows in Southwest Ohio. You might hear some gunfire going off in the background. This course is close to a gun range, and when you're playing, that might throw you off, so you got to get that in your head when you're around here. Not only is there wind and there are people walking around, but there's also gunfire. So we are on hole 8. It is a par 5, 290 feet. You have out of bounds right here in that grassy area. It's nice and low today. And you also have out of bounds in that group of trees right over there. So it's kind of a narrow, and you have grass right here as well. And it's kind of narrow, and then it opens up just a little bit past these two narrow areas. We're on hole 9, par 4, 212 feet. Probably should be a par 3. And it is pretty much just kind of wraps around at about 2 o'clock on our right. You got to be careful of the bamboo forest on our right. And so you want to throw something understable or use your forehand. All right, we are at hole 10, par 5, 290 feet. Opens up nice and wide, then it gets really narrow. You can see that there's 2 grassy areas that are mowed down, and there's a little narrow way in between the 2. Those grassy areas that are mowed down get really high in the summer, and those are technically out of bounds if you're playing out of bounds. Then it opens back up, but the basket is on the left, kind of straight ahead from the tee pad, and it is out of bounds behind the basket as well. So you want to throw something straight or maybe understable, or you can throw something overstable and just aim to the right and let it come back around. The wind is really playing havoc today. 11, 219 feet, par 4, believe it or not. Probably a par 4 because it hugs this tree line. I'm not sure if you can see the basket, but it's really close to the trees. There's a gully there too. A lot of times people end up in the gully, and that gully is out of bounds. And these trees on my left are out of bounds as well. And this hole messes with my mind. This is hole 12, par 4, 225. And on at 225 feet, probably should be a par 3, but you got a lot of out of bounds. First of all, you have these two trees that right in front of us that look like goalposts. A lot of people hit those. So you want to try to get either between them or go around the one on the right. It is out of bounds where you see all the nice yellow pretty flowers. And by the way, where you see all those nice yellow pretty flowers, once those flowers are gone, all of those turn into some kind of plant that are about ankle high, a little higher that maybe in the summer, that sting and hurt. And a lot of people don't like to play here in the summer or the early fall because of that. Hole 13, par 4, 228 feet. Probably par 4 because of all this nice pretty yellow flowers. They're all out of bounds. So it's kind of narrow because you want to get it through the trees here, past the yellow flowers. And the basket is kind of at 11 o'clock from the tee pad. And you want to try to get something overstable, get it to wrap up around these trees and out there on the fairway towards that basket. This is hole 14, par 4, 254 feet, straight to the basket, wide open, except for the grass on my right. That is out of bounds. This is where you can let it rip if you got it. Today, I don't have the speed. Hole 15, par 5, 291 feet. You can see the bamboo forest over here on my left, and the basket is up a hill just a little bit on the other side of that bamboo forest. That is OB, obviously, so you want to try to get around that bamboo forest. You can either use your forehand to get around it, or use something understable, or just try to go right at that corner. Hole 16, 330 feet, par 5, pretty much a straight shot to the basket. It's pretty much wide open until you get, I don't know, 50 feet to the basket, 75 feet. Then it narrows in. Those woods are out of bounds. So you want to try to get it as straight as you can, let it rip, and get to that where it narrows. Hole 17, 355 feet, par 5. We're right next to the river, close to the gun range as well. But that wind is coming off the river, and it is really windy. Camera keeps moving, but the basket is pretty much straight, maybe at 11 o'clock from the tee pad. But you got to get past these 3 trees right in front of you, and otherwise it opens up once you get past the trees. Out of bounds here where the yellow flowers are on the left and the right. We're on the final hole, hole 18, 329 feet, par 5. As you see, we have the OB here in the high grass that is cut down, and the fairway just wraps right around there, and the basket is on the other end of this high grass. Not all the way down where you see the shelters down there, but about 2/3 of the way down is the basket. 329 feet away. Lots of open space. So you want to aim for that fairway, stay out of the high grass where the OB is. The disc golf course at Heritage Park is a fun course to play. It has quite a variety. It has some holes that are straight. It has some holes that go to the right, some that go to the left. There's some variety in some of the obstacles. You have some bamboo pods you have to try to get around. Sometimes you're shooting towards the woods. Sometimes you're shooting out of the woods. And some of the holes are quite wide open. And also it's flat. Some people really like that. Some people like the elevation change. Other people just want a nice flat course. Also, the pars are friendly. They're not too difficult for you, especially if you're a beginner. You don't have to worry about everything being a par 3. Now, you can do the par 3 if you like. If you're using the UDisc app, you can play the pro settings and everything is a par 3. Also, all the tee pads are concrete and are in good shape. And there is a sign at every hole that you can see how the hole plays, and you can see the par and the distance. And speaking of distance, there are 10 holes that are 290 feet or longer, and that's pretty nice. That most of the holes have a pretty good distance. So there's also a nice sign or a map of the whole course. As soon as you walk up to the course, you can see that map. So there are some downsides to the Heritage Park. One being the wind, like it was today, very windy. And that's because you got the river close by and it's really flat and the wind always seems to be whipping through there. I'd say about 80% of the time we play there, there's some kind of wind at some speed. Also, the bamboo pods, the 4 or 5 bamboo pods that are there, even though they're unique, if you lose a disc in there, it can be difficult to find a disc, especially if that disc is laying on top of those bamboo pods, or if you're playing where the light is not directly on the bamboo pods, it can be difficult to find your disc. Also, the out of bounds area where you got the really high grass. Now, the grass was cut down when we were there today, but when that grass gets really tall in the summer and in the fall, it can be difficult to find your disc in there as well. And the out of bounds area in the woods has this type of plant that can sting you. I don't know what that plant is, but a lot of times people do not like to play there in the summer or in the early fall because of those type of stinging plants, and you're in shorts and you lose a disc in there, and you go, and it gets up not quite knee high, I guess you say mid shin high, and you go into those stingers. It is not fun. So when we go to Heritage Park to play, we usually go between mid-fall through early spring. That's the best time to go, when the tall grass has usually been cut and the stingers are usually gone, and the bamboo forest areas are not that difficult to maneuver if you lose a disc in there. One thing they do is they do keep the fairways pretty well trimmed throughout the year. Usually that is done fairly well, so that's a positive. Thank you for joining us on this review of the Heritage Park Disc Golf Course. If you want to leave a comment below about playing at the course, or if you have a question about the course, go ahead and do that, and we'll try to do our best to answer. And the last thing I have to say is go, man, go. Get out and throw.